troubleshooting my Commodore 64 today, which just presents a black screen when I turn it on. I noticed that if I turn on my disk drive, it'll just run forever if the computer is off. But if the disk drive is on and I turn on the computer, it'll boot normally. And then the disk drive light will go off. I also noticed that if I turn off the disk drive while the computer is on, the computer will freeze. And now that the disk drive is off, if I turn the computer back on, I'll get a black screen again. Now if I unplug the disk drive, turn the computer on, it works. So I think what's happening here is we just have a problem with the reset line. Either the reset line is not working correctly on the Commodore 64 or the 1541. I'm leaning towards the Commodore 64 because if I run the 1541 on my SX64 here, it works fine. I don't have any problems. So what's happening is when I power on or off the 1541, its reset signal is supplying the reset signal to the Commodore 64, and it's almost working. It's enabling it to reset correctly. But when the 1541 is plugged in and it's off, it's probably just pulling the reset line down and it's staying low, and the machine can't boot till the reset line comes back up. When I turn it on, reset line comes back up. It's probably floating or something. So we'll find out. I have the logic probe here and the schematics, and the first thing we'll do is just look at the reset circuit, see what's going on there. Here I have the schematic for the Commodore 64. It's conveniently in the back of the original programmer's reference manual. I wish they did that today. One thing I forgot to mention was that when I ran a dead test cartridge on this machine, when it first failed, the SID failed, and it was not working, and then it started intermittently working, but it sounded choppy, like it was turning on and off, just really bad. And then eventually it got better, and then it started working again. So again, I suspect that the reset line, which you can see here on the SID, this reset line is connected to the CPU, as well as there's a reset line for the 1541. I think the reset line is floating and the SID was resetting. Anyway, let's dig into this and see if we can see what's happening. Here's the serial bus. You can see this reset line on pin 6. Follow that along down here. You see it comes across here to this reset circuit. Focus. So there's this 556 timer that should bring the reset signal low and then high again. So when the signal goes low, the CPU resets, all the other chips get the reset, and then it goes high. The reset signal comes out of this 556 timer through this 7406 inverter. So coming out of the 556, it'll be low, or correction, it'll be high, and then it'll go low. The inverter will make it go low and then high. So when you turn on the machine, this stays high for a second and then goes low, which gets inverted, low and then high. So we should see low and then high on this reset line. But we know we're looking for a 7406 next to a 556. So we'll find that, and we'll just look at the output here. In fact, we should see a change here and a change here. This is what a 7406 inverter looks like. You can see signal comes in, logic level comes in, gets inverted, comes out, in, out. You have 6 of these. So to test the 7406, we could just really take our logic probe and put it on the input, watch the signal change, and then put it on the output, and we should see the opposite. And we'll just do that for all the pins and maybe we can determine if our 7406 is working. Remember when Radio Shack sold these? Oh, Radio Shack. So here's the 556 timer. And searching around, I found the 7406. I found a place to connect my probe. There's 5 volts on one side, ground on the other. And we'll start with pin 1, and I'll turn the machine on and then turn it off, and we'll see what happens. So, okay, so we have a high-low. Let's check pin 2. This should be the output. Low-high, so that works. Pin 3. That's pulsing. We should see the same on this one. Okay, that's not the reset line. Pin 5 stays low, so pin 6 should stay high. Pin 7 is ground, and we'll go over here to pin 8. Actually, we'll go to pin 9 because pin 8 is the output, so pin 9 is the input. That goes high-low. Pin 8 stays low. Let's try it again. So pin 9, high-low. So pin 8 should go low-high. And it doesn't. So this 7406 may have a problem. Let's check some of these other pins. This pin 11, it's high. Pin 10, low. Pin 12, high low, that's a reset line. And sorry, that was pin 14, 13, that was pin 13. And then we'll check pin 12, it should be the opposite. That's working. So it looks like this last inverter, pins 8 and 9, may not be working. Let's pull that chip out and test it. So I thought as one more test, it might be good to know if what we think is a reset line here that's not working. Let's see if it's related to the 1541 disk drive and the serial port. So what we can do is we'll watch that. Remember when I would turn on the disk drive, the machine would reset. Let's see if this line changes when I turn the disk drive on and off. So here I've plugged the drive back in, turn it on, and the output line is low. That's the one that's stuck low. Here, I'll turn it off, turn it on again. I don't know if you can see the lights, but you can tell by the tone. Low, okay? And I'll turn the 1541 disk drive on. Look at that. So the machine powered up and booted, but the signal isn't high or low, it's just floating. It's low when I turn it off, floating when I turn it on. So the machine came up because the reset line is no longer low, but it's not really high either. And that could be why my SID was flaking out. If the SID is on this reset line, then the SID may have been in reset continuously, just randomly as this line's floating. I'm going to buzz this out and see if it's the same reset line as the SID. Okay, reset is pin 5 of the SID chip, 6581. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we should see the same behavior here. When I turn it on, interestingly, it stays low. The machine came up, but it stays low. That could be why my SID wasn't working. And then when I plug in my disk drive, it stays low. When I turn the disk drive on, it's floating. So the SID chip is tied to that reset line. So I think the 7406 is bad. I'll pull it out. I'll be right back. I removed the 7406 inverter. I have it here in my backbit tester. Just hit test. You can see it fails. Not surprised. I'll get another chip. Drop it in there. Hopefully that fixes it. Stand by. I just went ahead and installed a socket just in case it fails again. Well, I've installed a new 7406 here in this socket, and we'll just check that output pin for reset that was stuck grounded before. Okay, also over here on the IEC bus, we have a high on that reset pin too, which is what we expect to see. Okay, so let's turn on the disk drive. That looks normal. Let's turn on the computer. Okay, let's reset the disk drive. That looks good. Thanks for watching.